shut off the switch. Yeah, it doesn't matter because when you push up it's here. Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mohammed Al-Ghassani. I am the Imam and the Director of the Islamic Center for Peace from Fort Myers, Florida. I would like to start by welcoming everybody to be with us tonight. Thank you for taking the time of your Saturday evening to attend this educational meeting. That's what we intended for this meeting to be. So thank you for coming. Feel at home. We'll have a few minutes breaks between sessions or between speakers sometimes. Feel free to help yourself to some of the refreshments we have on the side of the room here. And I'm going to cut my remarks completely to a couple of statements at the beginning, so we can have time for more time actually for question and answer, because that's what we want. We wanted a dialogue here. Plus, I would ask our speakers to, if they can cut a minute or two from each.
Yeah, but we need scores from the game.
Yes,
man, there's a guy with a Tampa t-shirt. We need scores updated.
Who won, by the way?
You, sir.
Congratulations.
We're talking about the baseball game tonight, man.
Congratulations. We didn't get a chance to get the scores either. Okay. Now, as you see, we have cameras, and I believe my son already made the statement that if you don't want to be on camera, please either take a side of the room where we're not gonna aim the cameras at you, or leave if you don't want to be on cameras, period. Your presence in here, whether you are a participant or an audience, gives us the permission to take you and use this information in the educational programs we produce, whether they are on videos or on the internet or in lectures, in multimedia presentations. That constitutes your permission right now. So I assume, hopefully you are in agreement of that, your statement. The other thing I would like to ask you, I'm taking the role of moderator right now, to please be precise with your questions and statements, and be as short as possible so others will have a chance to ask their questions too at the end. Now, as I said, this program, we intend for it to be an educational program, and hopefully from now on, anywhere we have a meeting with Florida Security Council or any promoter of Obsession or the upcoming movie, The Third Jihad, we would love for it to be a dialogue, not one-sided. However, we're not going to permit any abstraction of the programs, and we will never be a part of it ourselves. Thank you for coming and your cooperation. Again, this is educational. Education means to listen, to understand, to dialogue, to question, to think for yourself, find the truth for yourself, and then make the right decision. That's our purpose of these kind of meetings. That's our mission at the Islamic Center for Peace. I hope you enjoyed the evening. Thank you for coming again, and I'll stop here, but you can ask me questions when the panel discussion starts, because I'll be a part of the panel. Thank you again, and may God bless you all. Thank you for our panelists too.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Wayne Robinson, the minister of the All-Faith Unitarian Congregation and adjunct professor at Florida Gulf Coast University. It's good to see each of you here participating in this event tonight. And I'm glad we're starting a little late since I was heading north on I-75 and about exit 280. I thought I may have gone a little too far. So I turned around and got here at this time. Mortimer Adler, a great American intellectual, once said, "Before we can say we agree or we disagree, we must be able to say we understand." Before we can say we agree or we disagree, we must be able to say we understand. What we're about here tonight is an effort in understanding, not in disagreeing or agreeing. We're not trying to make disciples or to convert. We're trying to understand. Also, there's another way of looking at it. If we thought of our world as a certain kind of reality, there are different ways of looking at reality, and that reality many times has to do with where we were born, to which parents we were born, what time we were born, what kind of economic status we had, and that causes us to see things differently. And so it's not that the person on my right is wrong or the person on my left is right. It's that we see things differently, not wrong or right. And so I hope that's one of the things we can look at tonight is our differences rather than our rightness or our wrongness. And then one final thing. Back at the start of this country, before we were a nation, Jews in one of the synagogues in Rhode Island wrote to George Washington and asked, "Will Jews be welcome in this new nation?" George Washington wrote back a famous letter affirming them as the seed of Abraham and that there was a place in the new nation for them. And then in 1796 or 98, the nation of Tripoli sent a letter of inquiry to George Washington. Was America a Christian nation? And the U.S. Congress voted the Treaty of Tripoli, which said specifically America was not a Christian nation. And then in the next administration, the president signed the treaty that had been passed. And so our nation is one that affirms diversity, not only affirms diversity, but is enriched because we have different strains and influences and perspectives, and that makes us a better nation for it. So we're delighted to have these gentlemen up here tonight, and we're wanting and listening and looking forward to their perspectives and their comments. And so I will invite, where did he go, Mr. Desan? Will this be you?
That's me.
Oh, it's Mr. Aldesan, his son, will give us a presentation on the Obsession Watch Project.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, my name is Muhammad T. Aldersani. I guess that helps clear up a little bit of clarification. I have an initial, my father does not, for the future. First off, thank you everybody for being here, especially the audience. Tom, thank you. It's always a pleasure. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Gabatz. Thank you, Reverend Robinson and Dr. Muhammad. I want to start off first by saying up front that I don't think there's anybody in this room that agrees that the random killing of innocent people under any banner by any religion, any persons, any group, organization, regardless of who they are or what religion they adhere to, is acceptable. I am no exception. So when we see scenes of random violence and acts of utter aggression and gore, that is not coming from a religious faith. That is coming from an ideology, and that's what I hopefully will be able to have you as a group walk away here from understanding. There's a disclaimer in the film Obsession that says not all Muslims are violent people and that they don't adhere to this wicked ideology. They don't like violence. That's true. However, the film is immediately dismissed. Well, that claim is immediately dismissed because without any exception, the rest of the film is filled with random acts of violence and aggression, just as I described, However, it's all wrapped into Islam, and it doesn't give any explanation as to the context surrounding specific scenes, specific events, and specific... Am I being too loud? Sorry, I got off track. It omits context, which, from any objectionable standpoint, should automatically sound an alarm. And that's basically what this talk should be about. The film itself wraps in about 100 years worth of history into about 77 minutes, and suggests that its accumulation and its suggestion that the world is under the threat of a global jihad that is fighting on a united front. They're so organized and they're so put together that they are able to orchestrate this massive jihad against Western civilization, and particularly the United States of America. It doesn't take into account that each situation may have a social context to it or a political context, or oftentimes it may be different groups that agree or that disagree. For example, Hamas and Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah. If anyone in this room suggests that they have the exact same agenda and that they're not at times at odds with each other, then we have an issue, because oftentimes they are opposing each other in their views. Perhaps the most disappointing part of the film, though, is the attempt to tie Islam into Nazism. The film literally suggests that Islam somehow parallels the ideologies that were taught in Nazi Germany. And to me, that's something I've yet to be able to figure out, and I hope that we'll get some clarification on that. But one thing has stood out to me is that, and this is not anything to do with any religion, because I don't think any religion had anything to do with Nazism. However, Nazi Germany was a predominantly Christian country. That's not talked about in Obsession. Rather, they show a picture and a video of a mufti meeting with Hitler. I don't think that's fair, I don't think that's balanced, and I think it's completely out of context. I want to read something that was said by Hitler as he took office and as he became the Chancellor of Germany. "We are determined as leaders of the nation to fulfill as a national government the task which has been given to us, swearing fidelity only to God, our conscience and our vote. This, the national government, will be regarded with regard its first and foremost duty to restore the unity and spirit and purpose of our vote. It will preserve and defend the foundations upon which the power of our nation rests. It will take Christianity as the basis of our collective morality, and the family as the nucleus of our Vulcan state. Under its firm protection, may God Almighty take our work into His grace, give truths from our will, bless our insight, and endow us with the truth of our vote." Trust of our vote. He didn't say anything about Islam, and I'm not suggesting that Christianity supports these views. However, I'm saying that there are people who shroud themselves in religion. Regardless, once again, of who they are, if they indiscriminately kill, they are wrong. And for every picture that can be shown of a mufti with Hitler, I can produce, I guarantee, 50 to 60 more of one with a Christian leader. So please, understand that there is a difference between what is seen in the video in context and what is in reality. And as from an analytical perspective, I want to give you a little bit about myself. I'm actually a veteran of the U.S. Army. Not just a veteran, I was actually an intelligence analyst with the military, and later on had an opportunity to work, in fact, in a way that a lot of people don't know about that exists. I held a top secret clearance with the government. I've actually been exposed to how the intelligence arena works, and I understand that that information that's thrown together like Obsession, which omits context and tries to literally suggest that every group is the same and that everything is tied together within Islam, it serves absolutely no educational nor intelligence purpose. Why? Because if you can't distinguish the characteristics between groups, you lose your ability to identify their behaviors, the patterns in which they operate, and the manner in which their motives take them. That's important because once we lose that distinction, we as a country can no longer track down who the bad guy is. Rather, the film works tirelessly to suggest, and anyone can argue this, that disclaimer does little because it compares every situation in the world as a similar situation. And it suggests, by omission, that Islam as a religion promotes these ideologies. It doesn't ever once say that Islam, the religion, does not promote this hatred, this violence, this gore, this random act of indiscriminate killing. No, it suggests otherwise by omission that it does. That is the problem that people like me and groups like the Obsession Watch Project have. It's not that these things didn't happen. Indeed, they did happen. And Muslims will stand against that. However, when groups tie themselves into this obsession, really, it takes me a few years probably to get over it. I've been to a lot of these events now, and the same thing everywhere. No one ever says that Islam is not the problem. They say most Muslims are peaceful, but apparently the Muslims who don't prescribe to that ideology just don't get it. Maybe we're supposed to be violent.Maybe we're missing something. That's just my take on that. And they want to show you in the film scenes like Hezbollah chanting, "Death to America, death to America, death to America." I want to tell you a dirty little secret. Michel Aoun, a Christian leader in Lebanon, one of the largest Christian organizations, the Free Patriotic Movement, is aligned with Hezbollah. If this is an Islamically motivated thing, why are they saying the same things? It's not the religion. And once again, I am going to go as far as to suggest that this film does try to say that the religion is the problem. There are more factors, and that goes again to say that blurring these factors does nothing good, but it damages the relationship with the United States, a government which I support, which I've spent my life defending, because I love this country as much, if not more, than everyone in this room. But it eliminates objective thinking. It gives an underlying tone that Islam is the problem and it must be dealt with. That's something we as a country should condemn, regardless of race, religion, or creed. It is wrong. Now, in the film, there's a lot of pundits and there's a lot of people, and one of which you'll have the fortune of meeting today, Dr. Muhammad. But some of these people in the film, and I'm going to go back to that disclaimer that it's not about all Muslims. Some of these pundits would disagree, like Bridget Gabriel, who suggests that no Muslim can serve this country because Islam is incompatible with the United States. She doesn't have a problem with individual Muslims. She has a problem with Muslims as a whole. People like Walid Shwebak. This is a self-admitted terrorist. Instead of standing against him and insisting that he be brought in on charges of terrorism and crimes against the state of Israel, people allow him to be paraded around as a hero speaking against Islam. Not Muslims, not individual radical elements of Islam, but Islam itself. There's no distinction with these people. They see Islam as the problem, and they want to be considered objective in the movie Obsession so that they can come out and they can say, well, this film is not about all Muslims. However, the supporters and the promoters of the film seem to suggest otherwise, including the Florida Security Council to an extent. If you check their website, there's a book that they link to in their resources section called The Truth About the Prophet. The author of let me make sure I don't misquote it. The author of The Most Intolerant Religion. The book is about Islam as an intolerant religion. Not as radical Muslims, but intolerant religion and faith. That's why Muslims have a problem with the film Obsession. It's not because we don't get it. It's not that we don't see that there's a problem with evil people in the world. We're against those as much as anyone else. However, we can't take sides with groups who seem to oppose us. It's not fair. I can't stand on my 2 feet in an arena and say I support a group who I feel is secretly undermining me. And I feel that they would be using me to exploit me. I can't do that. I won't be a part of that. And I'm going to call on again. I think Wally Sweatback needs to be brought in on charges. If he's a self-admitted terrorist, he's given the place, the time, and the location of where he carried out his attacks with the intent to kill people. Not with the intent to make a joke. He tried to kill people. If that's the case, he doesn't need to be a hero in a video. He needs to be taken in. I want to take a couple seconds to talk on a new film that the same group of people put together and are promoting. It's called The Third Jihad. This makes obsession look like a joke. The Third Jihad literally suggests that Muslims are already here. We are in the government, and at any moment we're ready to start this third jihad to take over the United States from within. We're in public office, we are lawyers, we're your doctor, we're everybody else. At any moment we can lay the trap. We're already in place. So you better get educated real quick. That's un-American. That's against everything that I believe in as an American. And I hope that everybody will join me in condemning the film. I have a 9... the worst part of the film, and this completely, once again, I feel undermines the entire intent of the promoters and the people who put the film together. They suggest that the breeding habits of Muslims produces terrorists, and you better watch out because they're outproducing you and they're coming to a country near you, and please be careful of that. Because apparently my 9-month-old daughter, who was born in this country, could possibly be nothing more than a plot to destroy Western civilization. I think my time is up. I appreciate you all being here, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we have a slight change in the program. Mr. Tom Trento is going to speak now, introducing the excerpt of the DVD of section. Please, Mr. Trento.
At the hour, we need to change tapes, so everybody can change the tapes on their cameras, so we don't have the same cycle to be.
So, after Tom.
After Tom, we'll change tapes.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this evening you will serve as triers of the fact. This evening there are two diametrically opposed viewpoints. It is the job, indeed the duty, of the trier of fact to cut through rhetoric, to cut through spin, to cut through nonsense, and to get at the facts. This evening, I came here on a continuation of my search for truth. Hopefully, as triers of fact, the predominance of truth overrides cultural conditioning, philosophical presuppositions, emotional reaction, anger, hostility. Truth is not often clean and neat and packaged like a gift. Truth often is derived at through struggle. Your job, and it's a high calling, is to be the trier of fact this evening. If I were to take for my headache that I don't really have, analogously, an Aleve, not knowing it was cyanide, regardless of my best intentions and understanding, thinking that that little pill indeed would solve my problem, the net consequence is I'm dead. I did not find truth. You are the trier of fact this evening. Two viewpoints will be presented. Evidence will be presented. Information will be presented. Your job, at the end of the day, is to assemble the puzzle to determine which position makes the most sense, not the one you may hope makes the most sense. Your job as triers of fact is to look for truth. But a warning to my dear Muslim brothers and sisters. In some schools of Islamic thought, you have a serious obstacle from which you need to overcome in order to arrive at truth. For instance, my dear brother Mohammed hopes for me to become a Muslim. God bless him. I hope for him to come on my side and help bring the Islamic community that repudiates the stuff we're going to deal with tonight, together with Jews, Christians, atheists, and others, to fight a very serious enemy. But when I ask Mohammed or other Muslims, I'm an evangelical Christian. Okay, I would like for you to become an evangelical Christian. Oh, can't happen. Allah is God, Muhammad is his prophet, and the Quran is the word of God. Petitio principi. It's true. Well, how do you know it's true? God said it's true. What's the analysis you apply to determine God said it was true, his prophet said it was true, the Quran is true? Well, how do you know objectively that that book indeed has been through the rigors of analysis and critical thinking? And when he says to me, Tom, if I can prove to you that Islam is right, will you leave Christianity? My answer is absolutely. My search is for truth, not to follow a person that I think is truth at this point in my life. A word to my Muslim brothers and sisters. In this task of searching for truth, I have found personally 3 tests that we're going to ask you to apply this evening to determine, how do you determine truth? Test number 1 is simple. And in fact, if you, as students in this great university, did not apply the rigors of analysis in your classrooms and did not assume your proposition at the start, but had to actually prove it, no one in here would receive any degree from this school. And to me, the search for spiritual, religious truth, infinitely more important than engineering or chemistry or biology. Test number 1, the law of non-contradiction. This is Aristotelian logic. My background is in philosophy, theology, logic, law enforcement degrees. A does not equal non-A. If you see contradiction in a proposition, it's black and it's white at the same time. Most probably, truth is not there. Test number 2, the fitting of the facts. If you hear words that someone is saying facts and they make no sense, they don't fit together, another red flag in the quest for truth.